I'm Richie Suave Flores.
And I'm Cori Crenshaw.
And this is Sporty with Cori and Richie Suave.
Floated, center field. The Diamondbacks are world champions.
Down is the motion man. Little flip to Fitzgerald. He scores. And the Cardinals win an amazing game.
Mikhail Bucker with a chance. He walks in. He scores. Mikhail Bucker for the second straight game is the hero.
Welcome back in Sporty Nation. We have now hit episode 11. Sorry, it's not as exciting as 10, but we are still going on through all of the double digits, and we're excited to be with you here today because we have a lot of very interesting and unique stories to tell you today. We're going to tell you about a goalie situation that I got to view last night, as well as the Coyotes and their media day that our own Richie Suave was there for, and we'll be going into the D-backs bullpen and what they need to do in order to be the team that is a playoff winning team, as well as some extra little special segments towards the end there, and just to kind of tease you so that way you actually watch towards the end. I look at our statistics. I see you're not watching all the way to the end, so you're going to watch towards the end. I'm not going to tell you what's coming, so you can't skip it.
That's a good teaser. Watch, because you never know what's coming. Maybe I'll take off my pants in the third segment of the show.
You're going to take off your pants in the third segment of the show.
Keep
oh my
watching,
gosh.
everybody.
This is turning into a whole different kind of show now.
But let's begin, Cori, with this was an interesting situation that happened on Friday night between ASU's ACHA Division II team and USC ACHA down at Oceanside Arena. What in the world did you witness that was so weird and wacky?
Okay, so I was sitting up right above the benches there, which is like their press area, and tweeting out most of the game. So, my wonderful scoring commentary back and forth. And all of a sudden, their own player lands on top of their goaltender. Their goaltender gets up, and he is not looking well at all, and starts to skate off. Well, they don't have another goaltender, so what happens? Well, one of ASU's goaltenders goes off the bench, the backup one, and stands in front of their net. I got highly confused, started asking people if this was legal, because there's no way in my right mind that I could find this ever to be legal. How you could be playing against your own team and doing that in a moral way that you're not just letting in every puck that comes to you was very confusing for me. So then after some asking what was going on and everything, eventually it was figured out that USC called a timeout and then ASU called a timeout in order to allow one of USC's regular skaters to put on goalie pads and go and play goalie. He eventually came back out. ASU had to lend him a stick. And then he came out onto the ice. He didn't even lace up, didn't do all of the snaps on the back of his pads. So that's basically the same, in any other sport, like in baseball or soccer. It's like not lacing your shoes up, like your cleats up coming out. It's the same thing in hockey. He wasn't completely laced up. So the fact that the ref had to come and help him put the rest of it together, and he just stood in front of that net and tried to do the best he could. Obviously, he got scored on in the first few seconds he was there, but it was extraordinary to me, and it was such a weird thing to watch it as a hockey fan and hockey freak. It was so entertaining, and I started asking out to everyone on Twitter, what has anyone ever seen this before? Because this is extraordinary to me. And one of our dear friends, Catherine Silverman, she writes for FanRag, and she is a goaltender extraordinaire. She played it herself and knows everything. She brought up that in Florida, this has actually happened before in the NHL, and I thought it was so weird to know that this wasn't just ACHA hockey or high school hockey, as someone had pointed out to me, that it happened in too, but it has happened in the NHL before?
Yes, indeed it has. I didn't remember the story at first, but now that I reread it, I actually remember being on Twitter this night, the night this happened. So 2015, Florida Panthers, Toronto Maple Leafs, starting goaltender was Roberto Luongo, and the backup was Al Montoya, former Coyote. And Luongo gets hurt. He leaves. Montoya comes in. He later then gets hurts his groin, so he has to come out. And then I think it was a while there where they were like, okay, well, what the heck do we do? We don't have any more backups left. So they legitimately had to dress one of their coaches who hadn't played in the NHL in like more than a decade, Rob Tallis, as like an emergency goaltender. But then at that point, apparently Luongo was able to come back into the game, and he was able to finish the last period and a half or whatever it was of the game. So it was close. It almost happened. But luckily it didn't quite. So that was probably the closest thing in the NHL wise. And actually, now you were texting me about this last night, about the ACHA thing, and I had questions. So I'm going to see if you have answers to them.
Yes.
Number 1, why don't they have a backup? Number 2, if they have a backup, what happened to him? Number 3, has the emergency goalie ever played that position? Number 4, do the goalie pads even fit him?
Well, I don't think the goalie pads fit him. I think that was part of the reason why he wasn't able to buckle them all up. From what I had heard from asking around, I think that was their backup goalie. Like, if anyone from USC happens to be watching and knows, let me know. But I think that was already their backup goalie. So, and they may have left their regular one back at home. I don't know. His knees were really screwed up last night, so I don't know what they're going to do for the rest of the season. Actually, I don't even know what they're going to do for the game tonight.
Yeah.
So I'll be there again, so I'll let you know. But it was definitely interesting. But well, let's see here. Yeah, that was your first question. And your last question, what was the one?
So, do the goalie pads fit them? What happened to the backup? And do they even have a backup? So, I think you got everything there.
Oh, and if I don't know if he had played that position before. I asked, I was like, so what do you do in that situation? Do you go, have any of you played goaltender before? And then one person's just like, oh yeah, I played it in Pee-wees. Like, what do you say? Like, yes, I haven't played it in like a decade, but and I go, I guess it's kind of similar to the point of what the Coyotes happened to do. I think it was last year when, they didn't have a backup goaltender. So what they have to do, they went and got someone who was literally washing his kids in a tub and had to go and get him to get dressed and everything. So, luckily they didn't need him, but it was very similar to that, I think. But I mean, speaking of the Coyotes, you went to Media Day the other day.
Yeah, so we don't have too much time left in this segment, but there wasn't a lot to come out of Media Day. But there were a couple things that I wanted to get your take on as well. So this was the first time that Rick Tocchet, his training camp is underway, his very first training camp as Coyotes coach. And there was one quote from him that I thought was interesting, and that is going to be, kind of a big key to the Coyotes' success this season. He said, the only thing I can tell you is I want to establish an identity. When teams play the Coyotes, this is their identity. This is who they are. That's the most important thing for our organization and myself and players to establish. So basically what he was talking about is when they play these top-tier teams, that these teams know that, oh, crap, we're playing the Coyotes. They play this certain way, and we can't take them for granted. And that is awesome to hear from Rick Tocchet. That's huge.
This whole team, I feel like, has a whole new mentality and has a new vision for their future. Everything that they have been planning on, it was asked in one of the interviews whether this team was a results-oriented team or if it was just a, try and get better day by day. And they definitely said that it was results oriented because of the fact that this team is brand new for a reason. They're supposed to be winning, and that's what they want to do. There's certain players on this team that don't get recognition throughout the league in the media, I think, as a whole. But Stepan was talking so much about OEL and how much he gets recognition within the players in the league itself. So this team has the ability and has the players to be one of those top teams that is going to have that identity as a team that is to be reckoned with. And that I think they'll get more national recognition in the fact that their first game is against the Golden Knights. So that'll help them in that situation. But if they can keep moving in that direction and they can really consider themselves to be a top-tier team, I think it would be great for not only the team itself, but the fans around the team.
Yeah, and quickly, you mentioned Derek Stepan real quick, and I want to talk about him real quick too, because he impressed me immensely at Media Day. I haven't really heard much from Derek Stepan. He joined us on the Freaks a couple weeks ago, but this guy is going to come in here and he's going to be, whether or not he's wearing the C or not as a captain or an A as an assistant captain, he's going to be one of the biggest leaders on this team. And he talked about that. He talked about how he takes pride in being a leader and being a veteran NHL player. Even, Sarah McClellan asked him about how he was leading the skates at Ice Den last week. And so to me, he's a dark horse candidate for captain of this team. And I think people think I'm crazy when I say that, but it wouldn't surprise me because a lot of people seem to think, oh, he has it in the bag and he's going to be the captain. But it wouldn't surprise me at all if Derek Stepan was kind of like the unsung leader, unsung captain.
OEL has been known for being such a quiet person, whereas Stepan is such an outgoing man. Like he's funny, and he really knows that he's been around so many big trades that he knows that he needs to come in and have these youngsters follow him and listen to him, and as well as have the older ones respect him and get along with him well. So he knows that he needs to really get these relationships going very quickly, so that way he can do well on the team himself and the team can do well under his management. And I think that's something that he had as a thought process, like going in. So I think him being a captain in a captain role in general is going to help this team. Yeah.
So what are we, 3 weeks away from the regular season starting? More Coyotes conversation to come, of course, down the road. Plenty of it from both of us. But first, let's take a jaunt into Cori's Corner.
Right. So for my Cori's Corner today, it's not going to be much of a jaunt. I'm sorry, but it's not going to be a jaunt today. I'm a little bit angry, and I'll let you know why. So in that game that we were talking about that I went to last night, a player from ASU was going for a hit, and it was just an awkward hit. It wasn't anything bad or anything, They thought it was charging. They started yelling at the ref, saying that he took at least 5 steps, and they wanted a charging call on it. It was just an awkward hit, and it really shouldn't have turned out that way, but it just kind of did. Everyone's seen those. Well, afterwards, that player had gotten hurt, and you could definitely see that he had hurt his shoulder, and he was holding it as he was skating off the ice. You could hear the players on the other team screaming that he deserved it, and that's what he got, and was yelling out his number and saying very rude and disrespectful things. If anyone knows me as a person, I'm a huge person that has to do with respect. I don't really care if you like me, dislike me, or you dislike someone else or whatever, as long as you have respect for people as being human beings and, human nature. I repeat, I hate in sports when people do not respect the athletes that are on the ice. Whether you are watching the sport or you are playing in it yourself, have some damn respect. Anyone that is playing the sport, I know they know that they can potentially get injured and you want your team to win, but that is a person and they have a life, and that will affect their life, whether it's their work, they're playing that sport, or not being able to pick up their children. That type of stuff affects their lives, and no one deserves to get hurt. In any way, shape, or form, no one ever deserves to get hurt. So the fact that anyone would be so disrespectful as to say that anyone deserved to get hurt is beyond rude and ruthless and should never be said. You yourself should sit down, sit in the corner, and think about your own damn life if you think that anyone deserves to get hurt as they're playing a sport that you both love. That should be something that should bring you together as a fan and as a player, not separate you. And I do not think that disrespect in sports should really be around. So if you are one of these people, sit down and think about what you are saying at games, especially with those who are in smaller arenas as in such of that of youth hockey or college hockey, where your voice is more prominently heard because they hear that you want them to get hurt, and that is one of the rudest and most disrespectful things that you could possibly do. That is my Cori's Corner for today, and please, I hope you learned something from it.
You know what, Cori? I agree. I am fired up about that too. I 100% agree with you. I don't care who it is. I don't care if it is a player I dislike to the nth degree. Don't ever like seeing players get injured. Don't root for them to get hurt. It's awful. So to the kid that said that last night, I say to you, you could also possibly be my dick of the week.
You are an honorary dick of the week.
Yes.
And for USC allowing their players to do such things, you are also our honorary team dick of the week.
Team dick of the week. I like that one too. But a team who is not going to be our dick of the week. Much better transition. The Arizona Diamondbacks. We haven't talked too much about them lately on the show, but we're going to get into them today because we are rolling ever so quickly to the MLB postseason and the Diamondbacks possibly playing in the NL wildcard game. And we wanted to dive into one particular aspect of the Diamondbacks, which is
pitching and the bullpen more specifically.
Yes.
So, as we all know, the D-backs are dwindling down the numbers towards playoffs. They have a magic number that comes out after every game according to how many they need to get into playoffs. But we are not focusing on getting to playoffs here on the show today. We're focusing on what we would prefer if the team was to be in these positions in playoffs and who we would want to close it out. We have very similar opinions on this, but just for argumentative sake, we're going to give some pros and cons of some of our closers here and see at the very end, we'll say which one that we would prefer.
Yes. So the whole debate here is going to be Archie Bradley and Fernando Rodney. That's the big debate. Who's going to be that guy to come in the ninth inning to close games out, get those final 3 outs, and put the W on the board. Now, before we get into that, though, real quickly, when we had Jesse Freeman on about a month and a half ago or so, he actually had a good point on this as well. We asked him about this argument, and he mentioned that he thinks Archie Bradley should kind of play the Andrew Miller type of role. And Andrew Miller, who is kind of essentially the closer for the Indians, he's hurt right now on his way back. But last year, he kind of played a role where he came in high leverage situations. It didn't matter if it was the 9th or the 8th or the 7th inning. And he thought that was a better role for Archie Bradley. So that's also an option in the playoffs as well. But we're going to keep it to just closer. So who do we want pitching in the 9th inning? Archie and Fernando. Let's kind of go through some of the pros and cons, like you just said. So let's start with Archie Bradley. What do you like about him closing out games?
Archie Bradley, especially in a situation of a playoff situation, he brings so much energy. He, after he said in the Dodger series that this is our house and, this is our game, and it brought so much fire not only to the fans, but the teammates in general, and he became a face of this team just off of his reaction in that series, in that game particularly. So I think in a playoff situation where you need to get the team amped up, definitely Archie Bradley is that type of person, and that is the type of attitude that you need to be coming in. Fernando Rodney is much more even keel about everything, and he's very serious and does not really give off any good vibes. I mean, he doesn't really give off negative vibes, but I don't think there's anything beneficial about the vibes that he gives off when he comes onto the mound. As for a fan, I can tell you that Fernando Rodney scares the living daylights out of me every time he takes the mound, because it can either be really good or really bad. And I mean this in the fact that, like, I was at the rink last night, so I didn't get to watch the 9th inning, and you had texted me and said that he was coming in. I was nervous. I was sitting there in a cold rink shivering, not because I was cold, but because I was scared. And that is something that kind of freaks me out. I mean, given if there's a pro for Fernando, it's the fact that he's been in this position before, 3 times to be exact. So, like, he has the experience. But then at the same time, he's 40 and Archie's 24. So he could be coming towards the end of his career and how much his arm will actually give in,
Yeah.
So I don't really know. I would choose Archie Bradley.
Yeah. So here's my pros for Archie Bradley. I have his stats, right here in front of me. The guy has closer's stuff. He can come in for an inning and light up hitters with his 98-mile-an-hour fastball. I'm looking at it right now. In the past, he used to be a starter, okay? His average fastball was below 93 miles an hour. When he has come in this year out of the bullpen to an ERA of 1.20 and a whip under 1, his average fastball is 96.3 miles an hour. That's the kind of stuff I want out of the bullpen. Not only that, but his curveball is ridiculous. It has some nasty movement on it. So he's a 2-pitch guy, fastball, curveball. But that curveball will just drop out of the sky. It is very close to being that 12-6 deadly curveball that is nice to have as far as a closer goes. So Archie Bradley, to me, has the stuff to be a nasty, lights-out closer. And he has shown that pretty much all season. As far as Fernando Rodney goes, like you said, he has the experience. And look, at the end of the day, for the most part, he's actually had a pretty good season. We kind of give him crap for his 6-run outing against the Padres and lost the game. The outing against the Dodgers earlier this season where he blew a 3-run lead, didn't get anybody out, and walked, I believe, 3 players. But at the end of the day, he still has 36 saves. At the end of the day, most of the time, he gets things done. The thing that worries me the most about him is I'm okay with him having a blow up every, once a month like he's been doing during the regular season, but you absolutely cannot have that happen in the postseason.
Exactly.
And that's what worries me about Fernando Rodney. You don't know when it's going to happen, and you can't have that unless you're Byung-Hyun Kim in the 2001 Diamondbacks, in which case it doesn't matter apparently. But you can't have that happen.
No, that's the problem. Is he's so inconsistent. The fact that he was supposed to be the lights out, the person that you could count on to come in and make sure to close out games and not make you nervous. I literally have the same gift that I tweet out every time because I am so scared, and it's not one of those things that I am a surefire. I am so much more surefire when Archie Bradley comes out. And I know that's hard to say because of the fact that everyone has put so much faith into Rodney before the season even started. So, and as who he's been through all of the years of him being in the league, he's been that type of person, and that's what everyone wants and expects from him. But I just feel like there's a certain point where you have to realize there's a difference between what you want and what's actually happening. And he has the stuff a good portion of the time. Yeah. I'm trying to figure out how exactly to say. Some of the time he does, but he doesn't all the time.
Yeah, when he's good, he's good.
Yes.
Friday night against the Giants, he came in 3 up, 3 down, struck a guy out, couple ground balls, inning over in less than 15 pitches.
Exactly. When he is on, he is hot and it is perfect. But when he's not, it falls apart. And I don't know if it's his mentality. Soon as he starts falling apart, he just completely disintegrates. Right. But when it's bad, it's bad. And you need to have someone that's not going to completely implode in playoffs. You can have those problems during the season, but playoffs is not the time or the place to take those chances.
Yeah. What do you make of Archie Bradley's inexperience? Because this is his first year in the bullpen. And this team in general, really, you could really say that about this entire team. Outside of Zach Greinke, none of them and Fernando Rodney have the playoff experience.
I honestly, I am a little bit worried about it, but I feel like Archie has come in high pressure situations that are, need to win games. Mm-hmm. And he's still come in, and I think it fires him up more, honestly. I think it focuses him and fires him up more to perform the way he wants to be, as opposed to taking that pressure and letting it sink in and worry him and make him anxious and worry about how he's going to be throwing his pitches. I think it lets him fire him up and come in and just throw bombs, because he's been throwing bombs since he's been in this bullpen. And I think in that situation, he's going to use the pressure as something better as opposed to something that's going to let him spiral.
Yeah, I think it's pretty clear that the Diamondbacks bullpen is going to be their biggest key in the playoffs, because we've seen from Greinke, from Robbie Ray, from Taijuan Walker, that these guys can come in and pitch, 7-inning shutout baseball, and then they just can turn. They have to turn. They're better when they can turn it over to the bullpen. That is really good. So one of the things I want to see real quickly is I kind of want to see some changes made to the bullpen. I would like to see. I want to see Jimmy Sherfy get more innings. I don't trust Jake Barrett. The guy is awful. He's usually like their normal 7th-inning guy, him or De La Rosa. But Jimmy Sherfy has come in his first major league, outings. He's been spotless, 0 ERA in 7 innings pitched. He's the perfect guy to bridge the gap to Fernando and Archie.
As much as I fully agree with you, and I think that Cori really needs to figure out what he needs to do with his bullpen because he has not been able to manage it correctly lately, and that's going to be a big key to the playoffs. I would like to give a little PSA here. All of this could potentially change because every time we say something bad about any players on the team, they end up doing amazing afterwards. Exhibit A, Patrick Corbin.
Mm-hmm.
So you never know. Us giving people a hard time might actually whip them in shape.
Yep. Coming up next, though, we're going to move on from the Diamondbacks conversation, and we're going to get into the thing you've been waiting for all show long. Cori, let's get into your Minnesota Vikings just a bit.
Speaking of Patrick Corbin, he was named MVP a couple games ago, and he was wearing a Randy Moss jersey. And we had found out something very interesting about what they do in their locker room after they end up winning. They listen to One Clap by Randy Moss, which is essentially a DJ's combination of like all of his different press conferences and things that he said into a song. And so they now make him, obviously he's played for more teams than just the Vikings, but they have him wearing the Vikings jersey as the person who was the MVP of the game. So the last time he pitched, that's what they gave him. And we found that out. Apparently, according to Jerry Jackson, the day after, it was not really supposed to get out.
Yeah.
But, I mean, when he's wearing the jersey during the interview, like, what's going to happen? People are going to ask about it, obviously.
Yeah. AJ Pollock was wearing it in Friday night's post-game interviews as well. So now that it's out there, we know about it, and they're going to do it every game.
But as a Vikings fan, I kind of quite enjoy it. So I think that's pretty cool. But speaking of the Vikings, though, have you seen this article about, and I'm baffled by this as a fan, they hired a team consultant to teach them how to be cool?
Yeah, this is the hottest sports topic all week long, because the Vikings, they have indeed hired an 18-year-old Jonah Stillman as their, quote, Gen Z advisor. Apparently he has this guy has a TED Talk called How the Next Generation is Transforming the Workplace. And Jonah has been self-proclaimed the voice of his generation. So, and he goes on to say that basically, like, he doesn't want Gen Z and millennials to be mixed up together. He doesn't want to be associated with us millennials, apparently, because they're two different generations.
So we're considered millennials. I was doing this with my dad the other day, actually. So we're considered millennials and they're considered Gen Z?
Yes. Born between 1995 and 2012, Generation Z is considered to be independent and competitive workers who want to write their own job description and work for organizations with similar social values. They also have an incredible understanding and passion for digital media.
Okay, a lot of people dump on millennials, so they just wanted to be different from millennials. And I can tell you one thing, so I'm like probably right on the cusp here, considering the fact that I was born in 94 and this thing says Z is what, 95 and on.
Yes.
But I don't really understand. Like, I understand that this doesn't make any sense to me, and I know it's kind of off topic, but aren't millennials supposed to be the ones that were born in the new millennia? Like,
yeah, I guess.
Well, because like if you're born in the 90s, then wouldn't it be the ones that are supposed to be born in the 2000s?
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense. Exactly.
It doesn't make any sense. And the fact that he's like trying to rewrite his generation is astonishing to me. Like, I'm sorry. we had Fresh Prince of Bel-Air where their cell phones were this massive, and like in your generation, because he's 18, he's past 1995, and so like in his generation, they've had like flip phones, slide phones, smartphones the entire time. So I don't think that he can say that they happen to be better than millennials. I think if there's better workers, it's probably millennials as opposed to Generation Z.
So here's going to be his official role. A variety of club business initiatives, including team marketing and fan activation efforts, the Vikings Entertainment Network and digital media content and strategy, as well as the U.S. Bank Stadium fan experience, STEM opportunities with the future Twin Cities Orthopedics Performance Center, and workplace culture. So I want to ask you this as a Vikings fan, Cori.
Mm-hmm.
Are you worried that they're more worried about this garbage than they are like what's actually going on in the field?
I honestly think it's a waste of money. And I mean, like, I grew up with this team, like, since I was a little baby, and I think this is a genuinely horrible waste of money. Like, why they need him is beyond me. They have a brand new stadium that is amazing and is one of the, like, most state-of-the-art stadiums that has been built recently, and they should be promoting that, not focusing on how their marketing department is going to have a Generation Z kid. And I'm not to say anything about anyone, but I do not think that at being 23 that I am uncool, and I'm sure that there's plenty of people in their marketing department that are graduated from college who had a degree in that and that are doing that job that are uncool enough to not know what the youth is doing. And not to mention how many 18-year-olds are actually buying tickets to the game. Let me pose that question.
Yeah, they're not the ones buying the tickets or buying the jerseys or whatever. It's usually their parents most of the time. It's
like, yeah, you'll get more hits on social media from them, but I mean, like, it's not like they're going to be buying the tickets for the game. So what is the like end goal advertising wise for it? I mean, they could maybe buy shirts, but they're not even going to be able to afford to buy jerseys. Mm-hmm. So it would be their parents buying it for them. So I don't understand the idea of, using him as a marketing guru or whatever the hell he's supposed to be.
It's stupid. It's just to get the Vikings in the freaking headlines of newspapers, because newspapers are still a thing.
Yeah, that's going
corny joke. There you go. There's your corny joke of the day, Cori. Okay, one more thing, quickly, because this will go by quite fast. Soccer players are jokes. I don't like soccer players.
Our editor and shooter producer Fern over there is going to death glare you, right?
Yeah, I don't care, because this is the story of a guy who was playing for Real Madrid who apparently couldn't play in his upcoming match because he had a pimple on his leg. A pimple on his leg kept him out of a soccer match.
Because he was shaving his legs. And which, as a woman who shaves her legs very, very regularly, how the hell did you get a pimple on your leg? How are you shaving your legs? I very thoroughly wash my legs afterwards and make sure that I am nice and clean and hygienic. What are you doing? Are you using rusty razors? Are you not like dry shaving and not like washing your leg after? Like, this is not only like sad that he couldn't play in the match itself, but the fact that he was able to get an infected pimple on his leg in the first place. I'm just confused a little bit on that point, and then disappointed in the second point.
I am as well. So it's apparently like an ingrown hair or something like that, but and he had trouble like putting on his socks over his leg. But really, dude, I mean, come on. Like, nut up, basically. Nut up, put your damn socks on, get your ass out in the field and play. You can deal with it.
I completely agree with you. There's no reason that you should be not playing in a match because of the fact that you have an ingrown hair on your leg. I mean, give me a break.
Yeah. Yeah, he's not a hockey player for sure.
That is definitely for sure.
It is now time, ladies and gentlemen, for my favorite part of the program as we wrap it up every week with my Dick of the Week. And this week it is an easy one for me because it goes to you, Clay Travis, because of what you said on CNN on Friday that I thought was went way over the line. So he went on CNN with Brooke Baldwin talking about Jamel Hill and ESPN's handling of her comments, calling Donald Trump a white supremacist and a bigot. And they tried to have this civil discussion about that. But for Clay Travis, he decided to make it all about himself and said something that is absolutely disgusting and that maybe most guys think about in their head but should never actually be said on public television. He went on CNN and said this: "I believe in only two things completely, the First Amendment and boobs." Clay Travis, are you like a 13-year-old boy, for goodness sake? Like, that's what this reminded me of. This reminded me of a 13-year-old boy who wants attention, and that's all he can think about is boobs, boobs, boobs. There's Pornhub.com, whatever. Clay Travis, dude, you're an adult male. Get over yourself. Grow up a little bit, dude. You are my Dick of the Week. Thank you so much for watching this episode of Sporty with Cori and Richie Suave. We'll be back with you next week. Good night and good sports, everybody.